Hello everyone, Chris Guthrie here, host of SellerCast, and in today's episode I speak with Mark Adams, who has been private labeling products in one way or another for over 25 years. And most recently, he's been doing it on Amazon. We'll get into all of that in this episode. And really today's discussion is really a focus on the fundamentals. And I think that you're going to like a lot of what he has to say, especially now as we're in a new year, 2016, as we're recording this. And let's start the show. I think you're going to enjoy this one. If you want to check out the show notes, you can go to sellercast.com/18. Hello, everyone. Chris Guthrie here, and with me today is Mark Adams. Thanks so much for joining me.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have you on to the podcast. I know we've known each other for a little while here, and I really want to get into talking about selling on Amazon and some of what you do while you do it. So before we get into that, can you first cover how long you've been selling on Amazon for?
Well, I've been doing private labeling for about 25 years now, and way before the internet, and I guess, and finding my own products and selling them under my own brand. I had a chain of clothing store, so I went through the process then, way back before the internet. And I guess in dinosaur or internet years, that's like 1,000 years ago, I guess it seems, but the process is the same. So been on Amazon just a little short of 2 years now, but overall, actually about 25.
Okay, great. And so before you've been doing private labeling, in the past when you had your own chain of stores. Now, if we bring us up to the current time where you're doing private labeling on Amazon, was it just the private labeling that you've been doing in the stores that led you up to Amazon, and then there was no gap in between, or what was the thing that you were immediately doing before that?
Well, actually, I had the business I had before this is I actually owned a winery, and we made wine under our own label, own things, and sold it. But we also made wine for other people and put their label on the bottles. So we did private labeling from a manufacturing standpoint in that business. And I ended up selling that. And then the reality of that, that's right around when the recession hit, things started, that business was going really well for a while, but it's all predicated on selling wine so you can host corporate events and weddings and that type of thing. And then when things slowed down a little bit with corporate events and bigger functions, that business took a turn, and I ended up selling it for a loss. But I guess the good thing out of it is that's the first time that I really did manufacturing under someone else's name. I had always bought products and put my brand on them for different things over the year, but it was the first time I actually manufactured. So when I sold that business, and I'm built up and sold 6 at this point, I mean, you're sitting around, you know how to run a business. The question is where you want to go. And when you're in a business like that or any type of retail business, you're kind of hoping to really clear about 10%. So that's, then you've got the hours, the leases, the tremendous investments. And then started thinking about Amazon. I was always aware of it, and then started looking at it a little bit more in depth and realized that, geez, I can sit around and do the same thing I've been doing for a long time and maybe clear 40-50%. No hours, no Sundays, no staff, no anything whatsoever. And I'm just sitting here thinking, gosh, Chris, this is a whole lot better than having to deal with all the other things that you deal with in the real world. So that's kind of what led me to this. It's nothing different than I've been doing 25 years ago, except this is obviously what's current. I mean, I was doing what's current 25 years ago then, but this is what's current now, and this seems to be so much easier, so much better than anything else I've done, and it's just, I don't know, I guess I fully appreciate it because I did everything the old way and the hard way, and this is just every day I get up and think, boy, I'm really fortunate to come along at this time when you do have the internet, you can do things from home as opposed to having to go spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in capital to start a business and leases and all the staff and all the other things that's really hard to get. This is a walk in the park compared to those things.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, if you think about the amount of money it takes to start a business now compared to in the past, pre-internet, then yeah, it's a much different ballgame. And it's great that we have the opportunity for anyone listening as well to be able to start, pick a product, get some initial inventory going, and then go from there. So that's great. So then actually I'm curious then, so when was your the first day you had a sale on Amazon then, just to kind of put it into perspective?
I remember I was out eating dinner with my wife, and I looked at it, and I looked at it, and I thought, well, this just, I wouldn't quite understand it because you're still learning the dashboard and all this kind of thing. Yeah. And I looked at it, and I got a sale. And I mean, it was like I had made, I don't know, I got to say it. I can't remember the profit on my first line. It was like $5 or something, whatever it was. And I looked at it, and again, I showed it to my wife. It's like, this is pretty cool. And then now it's funny, Chris, we'll go out and eat. We'll see what the sales are before we sit down. And then we play a little game at the end of dinner. We'll look and see what the sales are and see if we got our dinner paid. So it's funny. That first sale is really one of those wonderful moments in life. Is gosh, I didn't think all this would work, and it's really pretty cool. And then you find yourself becoming almost addicted to the dashboard, whether it's on your phone or the computer on your desk, whatever you're doing. You keep checking it for a while until you get used to it, and you find, okay, I sold 3 today, I sold 10 today, and then your standards continue to change as you go higher. But it's a wonderful feeling when you've gone through and you've made something from nothing, and that first sale is kind of the seminal moment in your online business, I think.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I remember 10 years ago when I was more doing AdSense type things and making money from making websites. I remember seeing, I just got to click and it's, 30 cents or whatever. But yeah, it's a great feeling. And especially people that are listening that aren't yet selling, then hopefully you can use some of the advice here and use that as motivation to get going.
It's really kind of motivating, isn't it? It's like somebody responded to my effort. Somebody was willing to pay for what I did. And it's kind of it's an incredible feeling. And again, you're right. It's not the dollar. It's the 30 cents. It's like validation of what you're doing. It's just, I don't know how to describe it other than this is pretty cool. You just have that feeling of it. It's just motivational. It's inspirational. And then of course, then once you get over that, then you start doing it for managing it, money and all that kind of thing. But that first sale is you never forget.
Yeah, that's great. And so have you just only done private labeling on Amazon, or have you also been doing reselling other products as well, or do you pretty much just focus on the private label?
Everything I do is private label. I mean, arbitrage is fine if that's what somebody wants to do. A lot of people start out with that, but for me, I've done the 5-day, 7-day a week type of scenario, and to me, that's just one of the things that it's probably a little easier to get started. But once you do, you're just basically doing a route, buying a job, and when you stop, income stops with you. So I'm just more of a tremendous fan of the private label aspect because you're building a semi-passive business where you do the work once, or 95% of the work once, and then a little bit of maintenance along the way. So it's just for me, I just have chosen to say the private label because also too, you have the opportunity to have a lot more control over your brand and what you do as opposed to simply reselling somebody else's products.
Yeah. And let's dive into that too, actually. How much time are you spending now on your Amazon business? I mean, I know that the bulk of the time is in dealing with, getting a new product sourced and end up and selling it, then primarily it's maintenance after that. But where are you spending your time at these days? Are you feel like the portfolio of products you have now is what you want and you're good, or are you still kind of in growth mode trying to focus on adding more products and doing that?
Well, I mean, I was in growth mode for a while, and then with the course I do and all the students in the community, that takes most of my time. But as far as just the private label aspect of what I'm doing, I'll start out every morning and I'll go to the dashboard and just check and make sure everything is okay with the sales page and the world hadn't collapsed overnight. Just simple things. Just check and manage sales, manage inventory, and basic inventory management that I did 25 years ago. And Amazon's dashboard, talking about in the Wayback Machine, I paid $9,000 in 1989 for a cash register computer that you could probably get for under $100 now. But it managed the inventory, and the beauty of Amazon is they're giving you all these things. They even send you an email to, hey, idiot, you're about to run low, get some more inventory. So, obviously that's not what they say, but that's the gist of the email, And it's funny. So, I mean, just as long as you're keeping up and managing your inventory, there's really not, the occasional email to a customer or something like that, any promotions you want to do. So, I mean, it's, 10, 15 minutes a day when I check, maybe 20. And if I really have something to do, maybe half an hour. It's not, it's a few hours a month. And the reality of it is you spend really more on one product because you're learning. And then once you get in, you can check things much quicker and, the time goes down dramatically. But I mean, it's just as easy, I think, to manage 10, 15, 20 products, 50 products as it would be to manage a handful.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't find it to be hard it's harder as you grow your business.
Okay. Yeah, and we're not going to dive into your sales volume or obviously what products you're selling, but one of the questions I did have actually is just, as you've been going along, you mentioned that now it's primarily maintenance. But what are some of the mistakes that you made when you're going through this process of selling on Amazon? And maybe you can relay some of those so people can learn from those mistakes and make sure they don't make those same mistakes themselves.
There's an old adage, a military adage. It might have come from the Art of War, the book Art of War. I don't know, but it says the battle is won before the first shot, won or lost before the first shot is ever fired. And I remember reading that years and years ago, and I took it to heart. And obviously, it's talking about just be prepared and make sure you get everything right before you launch your business in this context. But, I think the mistakes people make is they don't spend enough time making sure that the product and market and everything's right before they launch. Because if all of that's right and good, it's significantly easier. The mistake people make is they try and get into an item or a category that's too competitive, or a product that doesn't have enough margin because you get emotionally attached to the item. And then they struggle, and they get frustrated, and many times they give up. If you do all of your hard work right, then at the beginning, then usually most things will go to place. I've been very, very fortunate. I've never had a product that didn't make money. Obviously, some make more than others. But I spent a lot of time in the prep area. So to me, if I could pass along anything along the lines of like the mistake is just make sure that you've got a Goldilocks product. There's still, I think, thousands of those markets out there. Every time I think something, when I'll talk to some of my students and coaching and things, they'll come up and talk about it, and I'm helping them with their item. And gosh, I've never thought of this in 1,000 years. And it turns out to be a really, really good marketing product that they've done a good job on. And it's all downhill if you do all the prep work first. It's I'm actually doing some remodeling in my house now, and I sit back thinking when I was younger and I painted rooms, I just wouldn't tape. I thought I could just do it. You don't sand the walls and you still put the paint on it. It looks sloppy after the fact. But if you tape and sand and all that kind of stuff, it actually looks different. And I'll see the differences in the prep. So to me, Chris, I think the mistake is people don't put enough effort into making sure they got a good product. And again, that's hard to do. It's easier to say than to do. But if you get that part right, everything else falls into place.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think it makes sense. You can't build on something that's an unsteady ground in the first place, and so it really kind of comes down to the product that you pick. Let's dive into that then. Actually, what are some of the ways that you look for products? I was talking to a friend earlier this morning before we got into this call, and he told me he'd spent months launching this product and all these different details to get through, and he only had a handful of reviews and was already doing fairly well out of the gate. And it comes back to that preparation process being so important. So, can you talk a bit about more what you do when you're looking for products and how you're trying to make sure you find those ones?
Well, what I'm doing is I start out, I think so many people start out backwards, where if they have an interest in something, they tend to start with that because there's a comfort level to them. And that may or may not be a good Amazon marketing product. What I tend to do is I walk through places, stores, and I look for items. I walked in a Lowe's store the other day, and I saw an item. I was going in to get some kind of hardware stuff. But then they had right there at the front, they had, what a Keurig, the coffee maker thing is? You know what that is?
Yeah, yep.
They're little single K-cup things, whatever they are. I didn't know what those were recently because I don't drink coffee. But anyway, my wife got one of those for Christmas. And sure enough, walking in there at Lowe's, they had a K-cup shelf holder. I don't know what you call it. But you store this little storage area for all the little K-cups. Yeah. And I'm sitting here thinking, I wasn't in Amazon product mode. But I stopped and looked at that, and I thought, that's a perfect item. It's small, it's lightweight, it's an accessory for something people need. And, again, it fits and ticks a lot of the boxes in doing that. So, it's funny when I tell my students how to find products, I know this sounds crazy, I know it's silly, but I literally will take my my forefinger and thumb and put them together on both hands and put them over my eyes and pretend it's my Amazon goggles. And I know it's like a mental trigger, really what it is. But it allows me to walk into a store and look at items other than just items, and you're looking at them first and foremost as if they're Amazon items. If I wouldn't have been in, I guess I'm always in Amazon mode now wherever I go. If I wouldn't have been in Amazon mode, product finding mode, I would have walked right past that K-cup holder and never thought of it as an Amazon product. I wouldn't have even seen it or paying attention to it. But I look at products and, would this make an Amazon product? And I think that's really the starting point of wherever you go. I walked into a store the other day to get my daughter a backpack or something for school, and we walked into a big sporting goods store. It's big sporting. I don't know if those are nationwide or not. But anyway, big box sporting goods store. And while she was looking at the backpacks, I walked over to the camping section. And I don't know anything about camping, but just by size and item and pricing and all of the different things, I must have found 10 potential Amazon items. So, I'll write those down in the phone in the notes section, and then come back and then do the research and see where they fall in the process. And obviously some of them fall out because maybe the market's too competitive, maybe they're not enough sales, however it is. But I try and start out with the market or product and then go down. I've actually created a market product checklist for my students. It's available on my website that actually is a scoring system. I'm one who, because I've been doing, I've probably done 1,000 products over the years, over 25 years. So I kind of do it in my mind, but I created this checklist to kind of have a balance to what I was doing. And it goes and it measures by score the market competitive aspect, the size aspect, how easy or hard it might be to get that product ranked. So I use that a lot just to kind of balance things out. And for me, I mean, that's the easiest part for me is finding the products. And I realize that's the opposite for, there's a lot of areas I'm not very good, but finding products is probably the specialty. And I talk to some of these students where that is the hardest thing for them, but maybe it's because they've been doing it so long. It's intuitive for me at this stage with the experience I have. But I think the key is just keeping your mind open to potential products. Too many people are narrow in their focus, and they can't find products. But I don't know. I mean, that sounds crazy, or does that sound a little bit strange? Maybe right on track. Who knows? It works for me.
Yeah, no, I like that. I mean, I think that a lot of times too, especially if you're building an online business, it's easy to sit back in your computer, office chair and think to yourself, okay, what products can I sell? And maybe you're looking around on Amazon.com, but if you aren't actually out visiting stores and trying to put yourself in a buyer mindset, then it's maybe more challenging. And especially if people are having trouble with that, then maybe that's a good tip for them to do. Going back to that checklist, though, is that something that I can include a link to in the show notes and people can check that out?
It would be at markscottadams.com/free-training.
Okay. And so just for people that are listening right now that might be in the car, can you talk about some of the checklist items that are on that?
Well, on this, what it basically does is it starts out and it goes from like 1 to 5 points. And obviously, the more points you have, the better. It's like a scores assist or scores the product. Well, that's enough points. It's probably something you ought to look at more. But for instance, it might be is the item under a pound? Because too, you want a small, lightweight item that is going to be very inexpensive when you ship. I've got in there is the size of the item 8 by 8 by 8, which is basically when you put your two hands together and link your fingers, they just give you a visual reference. It's a small product because products that are bigger and heavier cost more in Amazon fees than items that are smaller and lighter. I've got in there ways to check the market by looking at maybe the number of reviews by some of the top items in that particular category. And then it scores where that is there. Because, again, I'm a big believer, Chris, that so many people get enamored by people saying, well, I make $1 gazillion a year on Amazon, and you can too. And that's fine. We all know there are people out there who do make large sums of money. But for somebody starting out, I think it's a little more realistic to shoot for, say, maybe $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month product that might be on page 1 and spot 7 maybe. You still make money from that page, and it's a little bit under the radar. It's low-hanging fruit. You go through the learning curve, and then by the time you get into your second product, then you've got everything and you're ready to scale up into bigger, more competitive products. But getting back to the product checklist, you've got all the different things about is it a good gift item? Is it something that's intuitive? I mean, the example I use a lot of times is a cutting board, like a bamboo wood cutting board or something, chopping board that everybody has in their kitchen. That's really a good item because you don't have to explain to somebody how to use a cutting board, right?
Yeah.
You just put the item on there and you cut the food. Whereas opposed if you had some type of electrical item that had instructions that took something to figure out, people might get frustrated with that, and then they're going to write bad reviews. So, little things like, is it a national item? It's hard to compete with national items. I think instead of, like we said earlier about the Keurig, the K-Cup accessory holder, okay, they've already bought the national brand, but you're just doing the accessory item. I heard somebody the other day say the conversation started talking about drones that everybody's buying as toys and all this kind of stuff. And the guy says, well, okay, how do I capitalize on that? And what he came up with is a drone landing pad. That was an accessory to the drones, which I thought was incredibly clever. And that's the type of product that you're looking for. Little things like, is the product breakable? Again, it's there's probably about 25 different items on little checklist things on there that you just go through. And it's not meant to be an absolute, Chris, but it's just a guideline to help people pick products, because as somebody who teaches people how to do this, I find that's the hardest thing for most people when they come into the business is picking the product. And that checklist helps them out a good bit.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll include a link to this in the show notes for people that are listening. It'll be sellercast.com/18 to go and check out that link there in case you missed it before when we were talking about it. Let's dive into sourcing. We spent a lot of time talking about picking products, but I think that's a part that, especially when new people are starting out, and now that we're recording this year in January, I figured there's more people in the mindset of thinking about starting a business. But let's talk about some of the sourcing. You mentioned before in your product research phase, you're looking for lightweight items that you can airship and all that. Are you primarily sourcing your products from Alibaba, or are you doing other types of websites as well?
That's how I started out, and you still can do a very viable, profitable business going through Alibaba. I think too, but obviously everybody knows what it is now, and that's fine. And there's certainly anything on there that you could ever need. But one of the things that I'm doing now, and for those of us who've been doing this just a little bit of time now, and everybody's still relatively new, but doing this for just a little bit of time, I actually go to China and go to the Canton Fair. And I will meet a lot of my vendors or find new vendors and suppliers at the fair. And one of the things that makes it unique is that they know that if you have traveled halfway around the world to be there, that you're a very serious buyer, and they will treat you very differently than just as they would through an email from the 50 emails they maybe have gotten that day on just through the Alibaba system. But I found that when I was there in China that I was getting about 30% less in prices than what I was getting through Alibaba. The other thing too is that there's plenty of options to have things custom made. And again, I believe in doing premium products, premium packaging, all those types of things to help you separate from everybody else. And again, most of these suppliers, they're making everything custom or at least semi-custom anyway, so they don't care if they do someone twist or something different in the packaging for you. And again, you don't have to go to China to do any of that. But what I think where people, they're just going surface level on Alibaba. They can get into some of these deeper, more custom things if they just build a good relationship with the supplier. But long-winded way to answer your question, Alibaba is where everybody starts, and I still think it's fine. And there are just so many suppliers. And, again, it's not overdone at any point. You still can build a very, very viable and large business just dealing with Alibaba. But if you want to do things like the next step and going to China and that type of thing, then that's available as well.
I like that. I think that, if you're starting out, it makes sense. Use Alibaba, get going, and then maybe once you have enough money from your business profits, or say you have more capital to get going, then it makes sense to go to China. You mentioned 30% less on some of the prices you're getting, and certainly that would pay for your plane ticket over time if you're going to pick up those products and run them a long time as well. So that's great.
Well, yeah, I just went to the last one here in October. I took like 35 of my Amazon buyers and people in my community over with me, and we all had a good time. We did some training and different things, but we actually spent time talking about. Before the internet, with some of these clothing stores and things like that, you used to have to go to trade shows to buy all your things, and you buy them for the season and all of that. But now that's changed somewhat since everything's online. But this is an old school type of going, buying, meeting in person. And again, there is still a place for that in business. And if you're serious about your business, it's not very expensive to go to China. You can go to China for like half the cost of going to Europe. The exchange rate is very, very good. But yeah, you're right. With the savings that you get there, I think you can easily pay for your trip. And then not only that, I make the joke is that if you can't find a six-figure business at the Canton Fair, you ain't your job.
Yeah.
It's just so many things there. There's like 20,000 vendors there, Chris. If you can't find a product from 20,000 vendors, give up. I try to tell people, go through, get done your suppliers and whatever you're looking for, but then take a day and walk through what I call a day of discovery, where you're in the Amazon goggles on mode kind of thing, and you start to see products, and you think, would this make a good Amazon product? Would this make a good Amazon product? And you inevitably leave with a whole new brand or a whole new item that might put, who knows, $1,500 in your pocket over the next year. And it's just fast, and it's 3 stages. I don't know, I get all the dabble with stuff because it's fun to go, but it's also profitable to go.
That's great. And going along the supplier and the sourcing route, are there anything else that you're doing when you're sourcing these products? Are you using an inspection service when you work with a new supplier, for example? Or I'm just kind of curious about more of the details of how you're sourcing your products beyond just the places that you're sourcing them from.
I've looked into more complex things like that, and I think there certainly is a place for them. And again, I'm a live and let live guy, so do what you need to do to do your business well. But when I talk about things like this, people are always surprised at how simple I do my business. I'm not necessarily doing it any differently than somebody who I've taught or somebody who's relatively new. I mean, I might work at it harder, I don't know. But I'm not doing anything unusual. This is one of those businesses that people just seem to shoot themselves in the foot because they want it to be harder than it is. And, you have to fight yourself to keep it simple. Because I'm a smart guy, I want to do this, I want to change, and it's like, just do it. It's not. This is a football game where you're running off tackle 3 out of 4 plays. It's boring, but it wins games. And it's just a plus people want to come in and they want to throw a 60-yard pass every play, somebody they lose. Because they're overthinking this. But I don't do things like inspection services or things like that because I typically try and order in small enough quantities. And, I try and keep my first orders relatively small to where if something goes wrong, the sun will come up tomorrow. I'm not going to go bankrupt because something happened. I've been fortunate. I haven't had any issues to this point. But part of that, I think, is that I communicate in a professional way. It's easy for a manufacturer to read between the lines and see who's kind of knowing what they're doing and who's not. Because again, manufacturers want to work with people who are going to take up the least amount of the time and be most profitable. So I kind of get to the point and polite and not a lot of the other stuff, and it seems to go well. And the only thing that I do when I communicate is I try and be very clear in what I want and at least put it in an email so they can come back and read, because even though most of them speak really, really good English, they don't think that they do. But by putting it in words, they can at least refer back to what you want. Because I found they're very receptive to doing what you want as long as they can explain and understand what it is that you want. So I've been very fortunate. I mean, I truly like dealing with them because they want to be helpful. They're different in our culture where it's, again, it's the issues are people dealing here, not there. But Chris, I'm not doing any long way to say I'm not doing anything unusual. I'm not using inspection services. I don't have people go to the factories. There's a certain element of trust that if it doesn't turn out to be what I want it to do, well, then shame on me, and I move on to something else. I just think I'm more motivated by the possibility of success than the fear of failure. That makes any sense.
Yeah, no, I like that.
So I tend to be trusting. I guess. And unfortunately, you're not been burned yet, but, maybe it'll be tomorrow.
Yeah, maybe the fact that you're using smaller initial quantities, and then, you can kind of, it's easier to justify that potential maybe risk that some people might say in their eyes. But yeah, if you're trusting people, you're clear in your communication, then you should expect that they get you what you've asked for. And so I like that. I mean, I think that overall, just as we've been talking, it's a lot of really good take-home points for people that are listening, thinking about what they should be doing when they're trying to start this business, or people that are maybe even further along, as a reminder that, hey, sometimes getting back to the basics and just focusing on those elements is important, as opposed to, worrying about every single minor detail. And
yeah, people get caught up in the minutiae. You just got to hope some things go right sometimes. It's funny talking about fundamentals. I used to be a pretty decent basketball player years ago, another world it seemed like. But I could hear my coach in the back of my head right now when we just want to go out and shoot the basketball. You got to learn the fundamentals. You got to be able to play defense. You got to, you got to be in shape. Blah blah blah. And you go, Coach, we just want to shoot the basketball. We're going to do the fundamentals. The stereotype, like with whole red polyester pants. The whole classic coach scenario. But that applies in this as well. If you just do the simple things well here, everything will fall into place. The biggest mistake, people just try and overcomplicate this.
That's great.
I was telling everybody the other day, it's like the dumber I get, the more money I make.
I like that.
Silly, but I don't know, maybe that's more telling on me than anything else. But yeah, this is the time and time again you see people just overcomplicate this.
Yeah. Okay. And so I know we're getting kind of close to our time. Do you have a little bit more time here?
Sure.
Okay. And so I wanted to just briefly talk about once you've picked your product, you sourced it, and then the actual selling process. I know that a lot of the theme of this conversation has been just do the fundamentals right the first time, and then everything else kind of falls into place. When you do launch your products, are you doing anything special, or you've done your research and you get your product up, you might get some initial reviews, and then you're kind of off to the races? Or is there something else that you're doing?
Well, I think too, there's a process that I want to make sure that I have good pictures. I want to make sure that I have good copy. Most people, I think, tremendously undervalue that. It's like they'll go and spend all their money on a product and then get bad pictures or take them with their own cell phone and they look horrible, whatever it is. It's like they've run 95 yards of a 100-yard dash and they just trip up right at the end. I try and make sure everything on the page is as good as possible. And then what I'll do is I'll go out and get reviews. Actually, that's me. We have a review group. So we can send it through, and you can start out with 150 reviews or so here in the U.S. anyway. We get one in the U.K. as well. But you start and you run your product through that, and automatically, right off the bat, you've got that initial push of, well, we all know what the listing is of sales, and then your conversion rate, and then your quality and quantity reviews. So by getting reviews like that, it ticks all the boxes. And then once you're if you pick your keywords right, and we could talk for hours on keywords, that's a whole other area where I think people make large mistakes on. But if you have your keywords that are buyer intent keywords and you've gotten ranked for those keywords because of these reviews, then you're put in a position to do well. And then either you got to sink or swim. And if your pictures are good and all these other things, you're going to maintain those conversions, and you're going to maintain and start getting organic sales from being on that higher page, first page, and then you're on your way. And then I'm a believer that some people start out and do Amazon PPC day one. I'm a believer that I would rather wait till I get at least 25, maybe 50 reviews, simply because I think all PPC is not a fix. It's not a panacea. It's a continuation of what you already have. So if you're not getting any organic sales, PPC ain't going to make any difference. I just think it just adds more of what you're already doing. So that ultimately means that you got to have, again, your copy and your keywords right and your pictures done well. If you do all those, then you turn on PPC, then I think you can add as much as 30% to your overall sales, which again, the PPC sales count as your sales and conversions and all those things as well. So again, and this is where then the next level is, well, I've tried about everything you can think of. Facebook ads, video, and all kinds of things, Chris, and I have really not, for me, I haven't found the magic formula to make it work. I did a little bit and it worked, but not enough to where it was worthwhile. So what I do now is I look at it this way. I mean, if I want to have a product that's going to do 90% maybe of what it could ever do, I kind of leave it alone, just run PPC on it, because I could spend money on ads and everything else to maybe get it to 93, 94% of what it could ever do. But then I started asking myself 6, 7, 8 months ago, what if I took that same amount of money and just invested in another product? And the total dollars are more by having another product and having it be at 90% than obsessing over having it be at 94%.
I like that.
So, that to me, that's just the cycle of making sure everything is done well. And then there's a certain amount of hoping that it works. And again, obviously, every product I have done, I have been fortunate to make money on it, but more on others than some. Some have not done as well as I had thought, and vice versa. So you really never know until, the marketplace tells you how well you did, by your sales. So that's, again, a simple philosophy, just rinse, wash, repeat.
Yeah. Okay. And so then final question, since it is January, what do you think, and then this will wrap us up here, what do you think people should be thinking about as they head into the 2016 year for their businesses as they're trying to grow, or maybe as they're trying to start? What would you maybe say is something they should focus on? Maybe it could be something that you see a shift in the way the market's looking, or it could even just be a reiteration of the fundamentals that you spoke of before.
I think along with a continuation of what we've talked about already is that don't overcomplicate it. The market is far from oversaturated. There are thousands of markets and products left. I think I read somewhere, and I don't know if this number is accurate or not, but I think it's like Amazon added like 10 million Prime members over December. More and more people are shopping at Amazon every day. Amazon is looking at getting their own fleet of trucks and taking over shipping, and Amazon's only going to get bigger. So I think it's the right place to be, and I think you can overthink certain things with strategies. And it's just the biggest thing is to get in, do what we talked about, find a product and launch it, and then continue to launch products. It's as simple as that. Not sexy. Everybody wants the magic diet pill, that kind of thing. But, if you just do the basic stuff, this is all just diet and exercise, and you'll lose weight. Simplistic stuff here, and you'll make sales. It's that easy, I think. I know that's not exciting. I know there's no buzzword in there, but I think that's reality.
No, that's good. That's refreshing. And I think that as people listen to this and they think about what they're doing as they head into the year, then yeah, remembering to focus on those fundamentals is a key thing to keep in mind. So.
Oh man, I turned into my basketball coach. You know that, don't you? Oh man, he would turn over his grades. His personal thing was just to yell at me every day because I never wanted to listen to what he said. So, oh man, it's amazing how the cycle of life.
Well, thanks again so much, Mark, for coming on and sharing your thoughts on how you run your business, and also too for giving people advice on what they should be thinking about as they head into the new year.
All right, well, good. I'm glad you had me, and appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
All right, and that was the episode with Mark Adams. Hopefully you enjoyed the conversation that he and I had. And the focus on fundamentals that he really spoke about is something that you can latch onto as you head into 2016. I wish you the best in growing your business. And as always, thank you so much for listening. You can go to sellercast.com/18 to check out the show notes. And if you want to leave any reviews on iTunes or wherever you may be listening to this podcast, those are always appreciated as well. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next show.